Before I actually get into the what we do in the pre-rollout leading up to a gospel conversation, I thought it'd be a good idea to give a little introduction to the pre-rollout of why we do it in kind of the big 30,000 foot view of what the rollout is. And so the reason why we do a pre-rollout with a church before the gospel conversation training really comes from just 6 years of doing gospel conversation trainings at other churches. So what typically would happen is a church or ministry would approach us and ask us a little bit about the training, and then we would schedule a training for a Saturday at some point in the future. And we do a little prep with them, finding assignments and stuff. That was basically it. And then our team would come in or fly in or drive in or whatever, drop in, and we would do the almost all of the training, all of it from tip to toe. And even going out, we'd bring modelers in and all that good stuff. And what we found over time is it impressed the church that we could train, and they loved the tools and stuff, but it just never internalized, and not say never, but rarely internalized in the church. It didn't get the sustainability. There wasn't any lay people owning the training and wanting to take next steps. And so um, we could schedule a lot of trainings, but we really weren't getting to groups and the 3/3 and follow up and ongoing harvest. So we realized something needed. We something needed to change. Do we pray more? What do we do? And so we backed up and we came up with this idea. It was actually several people, and we figured let's rethink this. And so what we did is when a church would approach us about doing a gospel conversation training and hearing about it, what we would say is we would love to do this training, but for us to do this training, we really would appreciate, not appreciate, we actually said this is what we want to do. We would love to have a team of people that we can train in these tools over a period of time. And then when the training comes, they would do the bulk of the training on that Saturday. We initially thought no one would go for it. No church are like, no, we just want the training. But what actually we found is that more churches really like the concept of the pre-rollout training, where we train their people to be doing the training on that Saturday. So that was kind of the background for it. We just weren't getting the sustainability. We weren't getting the groups. We weren't getting the harvest. So we changed our approach. And right now it seems to be a real significant shift that has gotten to sustainability and more trainings and harvest and things like that. So just from a 30,000 foot overview, let me explain to you what the pre-rollout is. And I actually wrote it on a piece of paper here. So I'm going to change cameras here. And so I can just kind of walk through it. So the first thing we do with the church is we schedule the gospel conversation training. Okay. We get that on the calendar. It's typically a Saturday. Sometimes we've done them on Sundays. And so it's from 9 to 3, 9 to 4, 8:30 to 4, whatever. And so we set that date, and that's a very important piece. And then what we do is we back up anywhere between 7 to 8 weeks from the gospel conversation training. That's Saturday. Okay. So we back up 7 to 8 weeks. So this is really an important piece right there, getting this in place. And then the next thing we do is we help them identify and recruit a pre-rollout team. I put 5 to 12 people. The more, the merrier. I mean, the more you can get into that training, the better. And also, I have a document that I give the church to use in terms of language and how do I recruit a team or pre-rollout team, and how do I identify them? And so that's another document. Just ask for that and I'll send it to you. Kind of the language you use when you go to recruit them. Like, what am I getting into? What is this going to? And then once they identify the team, and this kind of goes hand in hand, it's about the same time, is they identify a day and a time to begin the training, and you'll meet on the same day, more or less, every week for approximately 7 weeks. It takes an hour and 15 minutes for each of the trainings, and you can do it in Zoom, which initially we started this in Zoom and it really works well on Zoom, or you can do it in person. And then so each week you slowly turn the heat up on obedience as you go through the pre-rollout. So that's basically the what. Now, let me give you the goals of the pre-rollout training. So some of the things that we like to accomplish in the pre-rollout training. Now, I can honestly tell you many of these things happen, not all of them, but several of them we accomplish in the pre-rollout training. So the first thing we want to do when we go through the pre-rollout training, by the time we're done with it, we find or identify 4 to 5 individuals that will do the bulk of the 411 or gospel conversation training on that Saturday. And that will make sense as we get into each of what each week looks like. But that's what we're looking for, 4 to 5 individuals. Sometimes we get more, sometimes we get less, but we always find at least, I've never found less than 2 people that will step up and do part of the training on that Saturday. And that's huge because it gets their people up there. The next thing we have, I won't say we solved the problem, but in our pre-rollout, we get them beginning to go into the harvest. So the other thing is, this is critical. We begin to raise up modelers that have some experience of going into the harvest in their community. So that's an important piece. Now, these next few down here do not happen every time, but they've happened sometimes and they're huge. You typically find sometimes the larger the group, 1 to 2 individuals that are willing to start another pre-rollout at the church where you assist them. So now you're modeling it up here. Now you do another pre-rollout after the first training, and sometimes 2 individuals say, I can do that with someone if someone can help me. And then sometimes, and this is what we're shooting for, 1 or 2 individuals agree to start an ongoing 3/3 group at their church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, or Wednesday evening. So these are 2 separate groups. But if you get one person on that team to do one of these 2, it's a win. The other thing we shoot for is that the church would adopt a no place left strategy for a part of their town or community. That's huge. And then lastly, that they schedule another gospel conversation training. And you hope that if they're doing another pre-rollout, they find another group of people, or they just tap into these another 4 or 5 to do this training. So these are the goals of a pre-rollout training. These are some of the big items that we're shooting for with a pre-rollout training. So I just thought it would be a good idea before I get into actually what we do in a pre-rollout training, what leads up to it, what's the kind of the discussion, and then what are my goals? What am I shooting for the pre-rollout in terms of the pieces that will be in place once we leave? So that's the introduction to the pre-rollout. The next video, I'll actually dive into what I do on week 1, week 2, week 3, and what's going on behind the scenes as we're preparing for that gospel conversation training that gets us the sustainability and some of the goals we talked about. If you have any questions, email me, call me, whatever you need. Or if you need that document when you recruit the pre-rollout team that gives you language for the church to use when they go looking for these people. I hope this is helpful. Again, if you have any questions, give me an email.